Ladies and gentlemen, goodness, let's pause. Do you feel that? That electric hum in the air? That's history waking up. I'm not going to stand behind a lectern and whisper leadership. No. I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. Today, Africa arrives, loud and clear, on the world stage as Vusi, not the first ever but the first African to claim this platform in the international leadership its storied history. There comes a moment in every life, in every generation, when the ordinary collapses under the weight of something extraordinary. That moment does not arrive politely, it does not knock at the door, and it certainly doesn't ask permission. It kicks the door down, demands attention, and rewrites the script. That's what it means when a ceiling is shattered. It's not just a personal triumph, it's a signal to the world that what was once impossible is now irreversible. You see, ceilings are designed with one intention: to contain, to tell you that you may rise, but only this high, to whisper in your ear that you were never meant for that room, that your story belongs in the margins, not the center. But the moment a ceiling is broken, the architecture of limitation crumbles. What was once a roof becomes rubble, and from that rubble you build a new stage, one high enough for others to climb onto. When you shatter a ceiling, you don't just walk through for yourself. You drag entire histories behind you. You carry the sweat of those who labored unseen, the voices of those who were silenced, the ambitions of those who never had the platform. You become evidence that the ceiling was a lie, that it was never glass, but fragile and brittle, waiting for someone with enough courage to take the swing. And here's the truth: the world will not always clap when you swing. Some will pretend not to see. Others will whisper that you don't belong, that you broke in rather than earned your place. But the ceiling didn't break because you were lucky. It shattered because discipline met opportunity, because persistence aligned with preparation, because the courage to defy outweighed the comfort of conformity. Think about it. How many ceilings have been placed above you? That family expectation that said, "Don't dream too big." That corporate hierarchy that decided, "This is as far as people like you go." That inner voice that sometimes echoes the world's doubt louder than your own belief. Every one of those ceilings feels permanent, until it isn't. The moment you decide to rise, the moment you dare to believe that limitation is not destiny, the ceiling no longer defines you. The most dangerous thing about a ceiling is not its strength, it is its invisibility. It convinces you that this is just the way things are, that what you see is what you get, that this is your place and you should be grateful. That invisibility is the enemy of progress, because if you cannot see the prison, you will never reach for the key. Shattering it requires audacity. It requires you to risk embarrassment, to risk rejection, to risk standing alone in the echo of your own conviction. But when the moment arrives and you feel the fracture, everything changes. Suddenly possibility floods the room. Suddenly the air is clearer, the vision sharper, the horizon closer. And suddenly those who told you it couldn't be done are forced to recalibrate their own imagination. You don't just change your life, you alter theirs. You become a precedent, a case study, a living example of what can happen when resolve meets reality. Make no mistake, though, being first carries weight. It means you will be judged not only by your success, but by the shadows of every stereotype waiting to be confirmed. You carry more than your own name. You carry the name of the soil that raised you, the culture that shaped you, the continent that believed in you even when the world did not. That responsibility can feel like chains, but it is also wings. Because when you succeed, you don't succeed alone. You elevate millions in a single breath. So, let me say this: do not tiptoe when your moment arrives. Do not apologize for breaking through. The world does not reward the timid, it remembers the bold. Shattering a ceiling requires noise, and that noise will make some uncomfortable. Good. Progress should be uncomfortable. It should disrupt. It should shake the foundations until the old walls tremble, because only then can something new be built. And when the dust settles, and you stand where no one like you has stood before, don't waste the platform. Don't treat it as a throne. Treat it as a bridge. Extend your hand, widen the gap, pull others through. Because the true power of breaking barriers is not in being the first. It is in ensuring you are not the last. History is not written by those who wait their turn. It is written by those who refuse to wait at all. The ceiling is shattered, the room is open, The world is watching. The only question left is whether you will step through or shrink back. Because once a ceiling is broken, it cannot be fixed. It cannot be rebuilt. It has been destroyed forever, and from that destruction emerges a new reality, one where possibility is no longer a dream but a demand. This is the moment, not tomorrow, not next year, not when you feel ready. Now, step into it with audacity, with conviction, with unrelenting courage. Break the ceiling. Shatter it so completely that no one ever doubts again that you belong. And when you do, let the world feel the shockwaves. Let them know that history has changed forever. Time is the one currency you will never earn back. You can make money, lose money, multiply money, and even borrow it from others. But time, once it leaves your hands, it never negotiates its way back. Every second spent is gone, written into the record of your life. And yet, so many treat time casually, as if it were a loose coin rattling in their pockets. They squander it on distraction, hand it over to trivial pursuits, and then one day, they wake up with the sobering realization that they have built a life full of wasted minutes, not meaningful legacies. Here is the truth. Money will build empires, but time builds legacies. Money buys comfort, but time defines significance. Think of every giant whose shadow we still live under: leaders, creators, innovators, disruptors. What separates them is not that they had more hours in their day, but that they invested those hours differently. They saw time not as something to spend, but as something to seed. Every action, every decision, every sacrifice was a seed planted into the soil of tomorrow. And because they planted wisely, generations eat from orchards they themselves may never see. The tragedy of modern living is that people confuse being busy with being purposeful. They sprint from one meeting to another, chase one opportunity after the next, and fill their days with noise. Then wonder why, after all that movement, they are still standing in the same place. Productivity without intentionality is just glorified time, wasting. It's motion without progress. If you measure your life only by what you earn, you have already lost. But if you measure it by what will outlive you, then every hour becomes an opportunity to inscribe meaning into eternity. Time has an interesting way of humbling us. When you are young, it feels infinite. You waste it freely, telling yourself you have decades to figure it out. But as the years accumulate, time shrinks, and suddenly every hour weighs heavier, every decision sharper, every missed chance louder. That is why the wise don't wait until later to treat time seriously. They understand that every minute counts not because it is fleeting, but because it compounds. An hour wasted at 20 echoes differently than an hour wasted at 60. So here's the challenge. How are you investing your time? Because your calendar is not just a record of meetings and tasks. It is a reflection of your priorities, your values, and ultimately your legacy. If your time is consumed by distractions, your legacy will be one of distraction. If your hours are consumed by building for others but never for yourself, your legacy will be one of regret. But if your time is aligned with your purpose, then every day you live becomes a brick in the monument of your destiny. The greatest illusion we buy into is that time is elastic, that we can stretch it, borrow it, or somehow buy it back later. No, you can buy someone's labor, but you cannot buy back yesterday. You cannot refund last year. You cannot reorder the season you wasted on fear or procrastination. Time is brutal like that, but it is also fair. Everyone gets the same 24 hours. The question is not how much time you have. It is what you will make of it, and this is where legacy enters. Money will outlive you for a generation, maybe two, if you're wise. But legacy outlives you forever. Legacy is the echo of your time wisely spent. Legacy is the story people will tell when your name is no longer on the attendance sheet of life. Legacy is not carved by accident. It is etched daily in small choices, repeated with discipline. How you treat people, how you use your skills, how you respond under pressure, how you lead when no one is watching, that is the slow, invisible work of legacy. The most dangerous lie you can tell yourself is, "I still have time." You don't know that. None of us do. Every day is borrowed, and the debt collector never sends a warning. That is why urgency is not panic. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that each hour has value, that each decision carries weight, that each moment can multiply into something bigger than yourself. So invest your time like a builder. Don't spend it recklessly like a gambler. Build systems, not just schedules. Build people, not just profits. Build values, not just valuations. Because when the clock runs out, people will not remember how much money you had. They will remember how much impact you made. And that is the irony. When you chase money, time runs out. But when you invest time into purpose, money often follows anyway. It becomes a byproduct of living with clarity. Time, not money, is the ultimate wealth. Because money can buy recognition, but time builds respect. Money can build mansions, but time builds memories. Money may fade, but time defines your name long after the last transaction clears. So, when you wake tomorrow, ask yourself, if today were the last entry in the story of my life, what legacy would this day write? Would it be trivial or timeless? Forget the illusion of more time. You do not own time. You only rent it, and the rent is due every second. Pay it wisely. Leadership is not a passport. It is not bound by the ink of your nationality or the coordinates of your birthplace. Leadership, when it is real, does not ask for permission to cross borders. It transcends them. It does not need translation because courage, vision, and conviction are universal languages. You see, titles may be local, but impact is global. The world does not care where you come from. The world responds to what you bring. Too often, people convince themselves that leadership is only valid if it is stamped with the approval of proximity. They say, I can only lead here among my own people where they understand me. That is not leadership. That is comfort. True leadership dares to walk into unfamiliar territory, to step onto stages where the accent is different. The history is different. The expectation is foreign, and still command respect. Because respect is not gifted. It is earned through substance. What makes leadership transcend borders is not geography. It is relevance. If your ideas only solve problems in your backyard, then you are a local manager, not a global leader. Leadership becomes borderless when the truth you speak cuts across culture, when the solutions you present resonate with any human being, when the conviction you carry is not diluted by distance. Think about it. Hunger feels the same in New York as it does in Lagos. Fear sounds the same in Johannesburg as it does in Beijing. Hope has the same taste in Karachi as it does in Sao Paulo. The leader who dares to touch these universal human truths cannot be confined by borders. And yet, the danger is that too many leaders shrink themselves. They allow geography to define destiny. They tell themselves, I cannot go there. I don't belong there. They won't listen to me. The truth is, the moment you believe you don't belong, you exile yourself before the world ever rejects you. Leadership that transcends borders requires an audacity that says, I have earned this place not because of where I come from, but because of what I bring. Now, let's be honest. When you cross borders, you will face resistance. The rooms may be polite, but beneath the applause, there will be whispers. Who is this? Why is he here? What gives her the right? That is the tax of being first, the price of daring to lead beyond your postcode. But leadership has never been about comfort. It has always been about cost. And if you are not willing to pay the price of discomfort, then you are not ready to cash the check of influence. The gift of transcending borders is perspective. You realize quickly that leadership is not about uniformity. It is about adaptation. It is not about walking into every room with the same story, but about bringing the same truth in a way that the room can digest. Flexibility without losing essence. That is the hallmark of leadership that moves across boundaries. You don't dilute who you are, you translate who you are. You don't lose your roots, you extend your branches. The greatest leaders in history are remembered not because they led their villages, but because they redefined humanity. They dared to stand where they were not expected, to speak when they were not invited, to create when they were not welcomed. They became symbols not of a nation, but of an idea. And ideas, once unleashed, cannot be contained by borders. The test, however, is whether you will have the courage to step outside the comfort of the familiar. Because borders are not just lines on maps, they are fences in the mind. They are the voices that say, this is not for you, stay where you belong. But leadership laughs at fences. It sees borders as temporary inconveniences, not permanent boundaries. It refuses to let the world shrink its potential. So, I ask you this: what borders have you accepted in your own life? What rooms have you told yourself you cannot enter? What platforms have you convinced yourself are for others? Those borders are lies. The world is hungry for voices with substance, for leaders with clarity, for visionaries who dare to be authentic. If you bring that, it does not matter what continent you were born on. Influence knows no nationality. Leadership that transcends borders is not about erasing who you are. It is about amplifying it. It is about taking the uniqueness of your story, the sharpness of your scars, the richness of your experience, and putting it on display before the world. And when you do, the borders dissolve. People don't hear your accent. They hear your conviction. They don't see your origin. They see your excellence. They don't measure your geography. They measure your gravity. And when you stand on that stage, beyond your own soil, beyond your own people, beyond the safety of the familiar, remember this: you are not just representing yourself. You are carrying a lineage, a history, a continent, a possibility. You are proof that greatness is not a Western commodity, nor an Eastern secret, nor a Northern privilege. Greatness is human, leadership is human, and humanity recognizes itself in courage. Borders are paper lines drawn by politics, not permanent limits set by destiny. Do not live your life as if the map defines your reach. Live as if your vision defines the map. Lead in such a way that your voice is not contained, your influence not confined, your legacy not reduced. That is leadership that transcends borders. That is leadership the world cannot ignore. Authority is not inherited by title, bought with money, or granted through connections. Authority is earned, and the currency that pays for it is authenticity. The world has become a stage filled with pretenders, with polished facades and curated masks. People know how to look the part, dress the part, even speak the part. But when pressure hits, when the lights dim and the truth is demanded, the mask cracks. Authenticity cannot be faked. It is the one thing you cannot outsource, cannot Photoshop, cannot pretend, and that is why authenticity is the purest form of authority. People don't follow perfection, they follow truth. They don't connect with the person who appears untouchable. They connect with the person who dares to be real, the one who stands up and says, "This is who I am, this is where I've failed, this is what I've learned, this is what I stand for." That voice has weight. That voice carries conviction, because authenticity resonates deeper than rhetoric. It reaches the soul. In every boardroom, in every conference hall, in every negotiation, authority is not established by who speaks the loudest, but by who speaks the truest. You can memorize the right words, you can rehearse the right gestures, but if your words are not anchored in the core of who you are, people will smell the fraud before you finish your sentence. Authenticity gives your words gravity. It turns sentences into declarations. It transforms advice into wisdom. Think about it. Why do people remember certain leaders long after their time? Why do some voices echo through history while others fade into silence? It is not eloquence alone. It is not strategy alone. It is authenticity. When the story you tell matches the life you live, when your values align with your actions, when your scars are not hidden but used as proof of resilience, then people don't just hear you. They believe you. And belief is the foundation of authority. The temptation, however, is to conform, to package yourself into the version that the world finds palatable, to smooth out your edges so you can be accepted by every room. But here is the problem. When you dilute yourself for acceptance, you also dilute your authority, because authority comes from alignment, not from approval. If the room applauds but your truth is compromised, you may have won the moment, but you've lost the essence. And essence is what lasts. Authenticity is risky. It means some people will not like you. It means some rooms will reject you. It means you will be misunderstood, criticized, even ridiculed. But let me ask you this. What is the point of being accepted everywhere if you are respected nowhere? Respect is born from standing firm in your truth, even when it is unpopular. Authority grows from consistency, from the courage to live one life, not a collection of edited versions depending on who is watching. The real power of authenticity is that it liberates you. You no longer waste energy performing for acceptance. You no longer bend yourself into shapes that fit other people's expectations. Instead, you channel all your energy into purpose. And when you live in purpose, authority follows naturally, because people trust what is consistent. They trust what is congruent. They trust what is real. Look at the most influential figures across history and industries. They were rarely the most polished. They were not flawless. Many carried flaws that were visible to the world, but they were unapologetically themselves, and that is why they had authority, because authenticity has a strange magnetism. It attracts loyalty. People will forgive your mistakes if they know your intent is pure. They will stand with you through storms if they know your character is true. They will lend you their trust if they know your words are not rehearsed performances, but reflections of your lived reality. This is why authenticity outlasts talent. Talent may open doors, but without authenticity, it won't keep you in the room. Skills may impress in the short term, but they cannot substitute for the deep connection that comes from being real. Authority rooted in talent is fragile. Authority rooted in authenticity is unshakable. So, here is the challenge. Strip off the masks. Stop curating a version of yourself that exists only to please. Lead from the core, not from the costume. Speak from conviction, not from a script. Show your scars because scars are proof you survived. Share your lessons because wisdom is born from lived experience, not from borrowed quotes. The world does not need another echo, it needs a voice. And that voice is yours, raw and real. And when you choose authenticity, authority will follow. Not the authority of fear, but the authority of trust. Not the authority of titles, but the authority of truth. Not the authority that fades when the crowd moves on, but the authority that endures because it is anchored in who you truly are. Authority without authenticity is noise. Authenticity without authority is potential. But when the two meet, they ignite influence that transcends time. At the end of the day, you must decide. Will you perform for applause or will you live for truth? One fades the moment the curtain falls. The other builds a legacy that no curtain can hide. Authority is not found in the act. It is found in the authenticity. And the world, tired of the performance, is waiting for the real thing. Legacy is not a monument you build at the end of your life. It is not a trophy you collect when your race is over. Legacy is in motion, being written in every choice, every action, every decision you make today. Too many people live as though legacy is something they will worry about later, as though it belongs to some distant point in the future when they are older, wealthier, or more accomplished. But legacy doesn't wait for you to be ready. Legacy is happening now, whether you are conscious of it or not. The question is not whether you will leave a legacy. The question is, what kind of legacy are you leaving in motion right now? Every conversation, every promise kept or broken, every person you inspire or betray, these are threads in the fabric of your legacy. You don't build it in grand gestures, you build it in daily choices. People will not only remember what you achieved, they will remember how you made them feel, how you carried yourself when the spotlight was off, how consistent your actions were with your words. That is legacy in motion, the ongoing story you are writing, long before history has the chance to summarize you. The danger is that too many assume legacy is about size, about how big your name is, how many people know you, how wide your influence stretches. But legacy is less about size and more about depth. You can touch 1 million lives superficially and be forgotten in a decade, or you can touch 10 lives deeply, and your impact will echo for generations. Because true legacy is not about reach, it is about resonance. The irony of legacy is that it is often most visible when you are gone, but it is built most powerfully while you are here. That is why you cannot postpone living intentionally. If you waste today, you waste a page in your book. If you sleepwalk through your weeks, you hand over the pen to mediocrity. Legacy is not passive. It demands you to live awake, to live deliberately, to live with the awareness that what you do today is not just for you. It is for everyone who comes after you. Legacy in motion is also about transfer. It is not enough to succeed for yourself. If your victories die with you, then you were a performer, not a leader. Legacy is measured by what outlives you, by what continues to function without your presence. That business you build, that knowledge you share, that standard you set. Those are the vehicles through which legacy keeps moving. You don't own legacy, you pass it on, and here lies the tension. Building a legacy requires sacrifice. It requires choosing long-term significance over short-term comfort. It requires saying no to distractions that may feed your ego today, but starve your future tomorrow. Too many people want to be remembered without doing anything worth remembering. They want the crown without the cost, but the truth is, you cannot inherit legacy. You must build it, and building takes grit. There is a reason people still speak of leaders, thinkers, and creators long after their time. They built systems, movements, and ideas that kept moving without them. They understood that legacy was not about being indispensable, but about being impactful. They prepared others to run further than they did. They set the foundation and trusted that others would build the skyscraper. That is why legacy is always in motion. It moves from hand to hand, from heart to heart, from generation to generation. But let's not romanticize it. Legacy in motion is messy. It is built in seasons of doubt, in failures that teach, in struggles that refine. It is not a perfect line. It is a jagged road of persistence. What makes legacy powerful is not perfection, but consistency. People don't need you to be flawless. They need you to be faithful. Faithful to your vision, faithful to your values, faithful to the responsibility of building something bigger than yourself. Ask yourself this: if tomorrow was your last day, what motion would you leave behind? Would your work collapse without you? Would your words vanish like smoke? Or would there be structures, people, and principles still moving forward because of what you started? That is the measure of a legacy, not whether you lived, but whether your life continues to live on. Legacy is not carved in stone. It flows like a river. It does not sit still, it moves. Every decision you make adds to its current. Every act of courage strengthens its flow. Every compromise of integrity weakens it. You are always moving it forward or backward, never standing still. And one day, when you are gone, others will step into that river. They will be carried by the current you created. They will drink from the waters you left behind. So live today with urgency. Treat every meeting, every opportunity, every conversation as if it matters, because it does. Do not wait for the obituary to write your story. Write it yourself now with how you live, lead, and love. Legacy in motion is the only kind of legacy that exists. Tomorrow is too late. Yesterday is already gone. The only place to shape it is here. The only time to shape it is now. And when history looks back, let it not just see a name carved on a stone, but a river that never stopped flowing, a motion that never ceased, a legacy still alive in the lives of those who came after. That is the kind of legacy worth building. That is the kind of legacy worth living for. So here's the final line, and I want you to feel it. Being first isn't an end game, it's an ignition. If it can happen here, it can happen everywhere. Now go. Be the first at your workplace, your family table, your boardroom. Don't wait to be invited. Create the invitation. Be the barrier breaker in your arena. Let's go make history again.